We're live.
Thank you. We still have a minute to go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the North Dumfries Township Public Planning Meeting. We have 3 Committee of Adjustment applications for this evening's meeting and 1 public planning meeting application. Members of the public who have registered before the registration deadline for an item have been provided with a link and telephone number to join the virtual meeting this evening and have indicated to staff which application they would like to participate in. Staff will move these individuals who have registered into the meeting to speak in the order of the application being heard. It's due to COVID-19 and recommendations by Waterloo Region Public Health to exercise social distancing and public gathering thresholds. Township public meetings are currently being held by teleconference. Members of the public have been provided with the following methods to watch and participate in this open meeting electronically. First off, you can watch the live stream by accessing the meeting through the township website. You do not need a YouTube account to watch the live stream. You cannot directly participate in the meeting via the live stream, as this is for viewing only. Second, members of the public who are interested in attending as an observer or wish to speak to an item were to submit the request in writing to the Clerk's Division before 7 p.m. on September 27th. A link and telephone number has been provided to those who registered before the registration deadline. And finally, members of the public who wanted to comment on a particular item, but were not available to attend the meeting virtually, were invited to submit written comments to the Clerk's Division, which would then be provided to the Mayor and Council prior to the meeting. I would now like to call the meeting to order. Can I please have approval of the agenda?
So moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Rolleman that Council adopt the September 28th, 2021 public meeting agenda as presented with the following addendum. 1, add memorandum that introduces new information to support the request for a variance for item 7.4 minor variance application A-09-21 99 Stanley Street, and that all correspondence circulated to council in advance of this meeting and made publicly available on the township's website will form part of the public record for this meeting of council. Councillor Rolleman?
Yes.
Councillor Rossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you. I would now like to read the Indigenous Territory Acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people of Canada. Now pause for a few moments of silence. I would now like to ask councilors, is there any council members that have a disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none. A motion to approve the minutes of June 29th, please.
So moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Osner that council approve the public meeting minutes dated June 29th, 2021. Councillor Rolleman?
Yes.
Councillor Osner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
And now the motion to adjourn and sit as Committee of the Adjustment.
So moved by Councillor Oster and seconded by Councillor McCurry that the council meeting be adjourned at 7:04 p.m. to sit as Committee of Adjustment for the purposes of holding public meetings pursuant to the provisions of the Planning Act. Councillor Rowland,
Yes.
Councillor Oster,
Yes.
Councillor McCurry,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. Now we'll pause for a few moments whilst people are moved in and out. And Cynthia, you advise when all's ready to go?
It's ready.
Oh, thank you. So 7.2, we report number PD 53/2021, consent application file number B-04/21 and B-0521 for 7 Cochrane Drive. Notice has been given to those who have requested it. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended, and or have registered with the Clerk's Division to attend the meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. I'd now like to introduce Shahid, the Township Planner, who will be presenting on this application.
Mayor Foxton, did we complete 7.1?
I believe we did we not? Did I miss that?
We moved into Committee of Adjustment and then went to 7.2.
I apologize. I did not do the minutes for the committee.
Committee of
June
Adjustment.
29th. Can I have those, please? Thank you, Councillor Osner.
So moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Rowland that Committee of Adjustment approve the minutes dated June 29th, 2021, July 12th, 2021, and August 9th, 2021. Councillor Rowland,
In favor?
Councillor Osner,
Yes.
Councillor McCurry,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Councillor Gillespie, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes, and thank you
That
for
carries.
catching Councillor Osner. Now, Shahid, please, with your presentation.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, Administration, and Member of Public. Tonight, I'll be presenting the consent application B04 and B0521 for the 7 Cochrane Drive. The applicant submitted by West Rose, Granville Construction, Inc. on behalf of CPS Warehousing Incorporation. So the purpose of this meeting is to introduce the proposed consent applications and to provide the recommendation to committee on the merit of the application. And the purpose of the proposed consent application is basically to satisfy the condition of provisional consent approval granted by the Committee of Adjustment at the August 9th meeting. So basically at the August 9th meeting, the committee approved the consent application to create 1 industrial lot and 1 retained lot. So let me give you some background on property locations. So the subject property is located within Highway 40197, Regional Road 97 employment area, which is municipally known as 7 Cochrane Drive. The property is approximately 12.377 acres, which is 5 hectares in size, with the corresponding lot frontage 172 meter. So currently the land consists of industrial business operation, as you can see on the aerial photograph, which consists of trailer repair, outdoor storage. The balance of the property consists of the vacant land. And there's an existing entrance located on the south west corner of the lot, connecting to Cochrane Drive as well, as you can see on the map. So staff reviewed the provincial, regional, and township statutory documents. So when you see the provincial document that support the industrial development within Highway 40197 employment area, if you see the key policies that state that making more efficient use of existing employment area and vacant and underutilized employment land, increasing the employment densities, ensuring the availability of sufficient land in appropriate location for a variety of employment to accommodate forecasted employment growth to the horizon of this plan, which is like a 2031 for the township official plan as well. As I mentioned, that the provincial policy dictate to the regional official plan and township official plan. When we see, as I mentioned, the land is located within Highway 4197 employment area, where the diversified economy is promoted and encourage the industrial development. So when we see the policy from the region, it says the land within the designation are intended to provide additional opportunity for employment growth and business development within the township of North Dumfries. So this means that the proposed consent, which approved on August 9th, and this consent application align with the provincial policies as well. The property is currently zoned as Zone 11, and the Zone 11 permit specific uses and regulation outlined in the Zone 9, which permit the large-scale processing, manufacturing, packaging, storage of goods and products kind of stuff. As I mentioned, that this is located with the zone as Zone 11. So the proposed severance is aligned with the general zoning bylaw. Let me give you some background that, as I briefly mentioned before, on August 9th, the Committee of Adjustment granted consent approval to create one new residential industrial lot and one retail lot. The proposed sewer lot, as you can see the map, the proposed sewer lot is to create one new industrial lot with 5.45 acre in size, with the corresponding lot frontage of 480 feet on Cochrane Drive. The retail lot approximately 6.9 acres in size with corresponding lot frontage of 86 feet, which is 29 meter on the Cochrane Drive. So when the committee approved, there was a key condition that the consent application for mutual easement for the proposed retained and sewer lot be approved to recognize the overland flow of surface water, as you can see on the map, the blue and the yellow strips, of the surface water through respective lot to Cochrane Drive. So just to satisfy the provisional consent approval, the applicant submitted these two consent application for mutual easement. So when we see the application B04/21, it says the mutual easement is proposed for the retained lot, which is part 1, in favor of the sewer lot part 2 to recognize the existing drainage, so as to establish legal outlet to the Cochrane Drive. The mutual easement is proposed along the eastern and southern western property line, as you can see the map with the blue color. The second application B05/21, it says that mutual easement is proposed to recognize existing drainage swells that straddle property line of the retained lot and sewer lot along the eastern side of the existing driveway. So if you see on the map, this is the existing driveway, and this driveway access is a part of the retained lot, and this drainage swell straddle to the property line of retained lot, which is part 1, and sewer lot for part 2. So following the process, the staff also circulated the submission package to agencies. No correspondence comments received from any member of public. We also mail out the public meeting notice, install the property notice sign at the property. So we didn't receive any comments concern from the member of public. We also circulated the application to the external agencies and internal departments. The regional staff expressed no objection. Grand River Conservation Authority expressed no concern. The Public Works Department also expressed no objection to the proposed consent application. So staff recommend to the Committee of Adjustment that consent application be approved based on the recommendation that no major comments concern received from the member of public, no comments concern received from any agencies. The proposed consent application for easement satisfy the condition of the provisional consent approval granted by the Committee of Adjustment at the August 9th meeting. The proposed consent for easement will not create any negative impact to the adjacent property. The subject property is located within a Highway 4197 employment area, and the general intent of the both official plan, zoning bylaw, and the provincial policy document are maintained. As I mentioned, the applicant also submitted 3 planning application concurrently with this application, basically. So, at the August 9th meeting, the concept application approved by the committee, and there was also minor variance application to recognize a reduced driveway to the retained lot, and the site also the same meeting on the same like August 9 meeting, the council committee also approved or considered site plan application, and the site plan application will demonstrate the access to the property, parking, grading, landscape, stormwater management and drainage, etc., etc. So based on the recommendation, staff recommend to the Committee of Adjustment that the subject applications be approved, subject to the conditions noted in the recommendation report section of the report. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Shahid. So there's no members of the public that wish to speak. The applicant, Wes Rose, is here to answer any questions. Council, is there any questions or comments? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Ms. Sage? You do not have to read it in its entirety unless council so wishes. It's a page and a half long. Nobody's saying to read it, so Ms. Sage, you don't have to read it in its entirety.
Okay, thank you. So moved by Councillor Osner and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that Committee of Adjustment receives PD report number 53-2021, and that's as presented in the staff report. Councillor Rollman?
Yes.
Councillor Osner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we will now move into the second. So we will move people. Cynthia, and you'll let me know when they're ready to go ahead. Now, Ashley, we're doing 7.3 next, correct? Which is 250 Northumberland Street?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
They haven't arrived yet.
Do CO McNeely, what's the policy? Should we wait or should we just start?
Mayor, in the interest of time, why don't we move to item number 7.4? Deal
Yes.
with that public meeting, and when it concludes, we'll go back to 7.3, and hopefully the applicant will be present at that time.
Thank you. Cynthia, do we have all the people for 7.4?
Yes.
Okay, that's 99 Stanley Street. So I'd like to state that notice was given to those who requested it. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended and or have registered with the Clerk's Division to attend the meeting this evening. These individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. I'd like to address Shahid again, the planner, who will be making presentation for this application. Shahid, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The next report before committee is regarding minor variance application 08/21, which is regarding 99 Stanley Street. The application submitted by Matthew Robson, Robson Development Consulting. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to provide an overview of the development proposal, solicit comment from the member of public, government agency, and the stakeholder, and identify the issues or matter to be assessed by staff as part of the consideration of the subject proposal. So the purpose of this application, minor variance application, is to facilitate the construction of proposed stacked townhouse condominium building at 99 Stanley Street. The applicant basically is proposing 4-story condominium building consisting of 24 stacked townhouse and 50 parking spaces to support the proposed condominium building and existing mixed-use office and apartments. So the property is located northeast intersection of the Swan Street and Stanley Street. As you can see in the map, the property is approximately 3,822 square meter in size. The property is serviced by municipal water and sanitary services. Currently, as you can see the map, the northeast corner of the property consists of an office building with 9 apartment units on the upper floor and the parking offices building with 9 apartment units on the upper floor and a parking facility as well. As you can see on the southern portion of the property is vacant, is where the proposed stacked townhouse units are to be constructed. The property was listed on the Heritage Municipal Registry. The applicant also applied to waive the CR report, the Cultural Heritage Impact Assessment Report, and on February 25th, the Heritage Advisory Committee passed a motion to recommend Council that the CR requirement be waived. And on the March 8th, Council adopted a resolution that the requirement for the owner to complete CR report for the proposed stacked townhouse proposal at 99 Stanley Street be waived. So basically, the design of the building there was quite compatible with the existing building, which is listed as a heritage property. Staff reviewed the provincial policy documents or regional and township policies document as well. When as you can see, the section 45 of the Planning Act that set out the criteria to be considered when reviewing the minor variance application. Basically, there's a 4 tests. When the committee take the decision, they consider the 4 tests. Like, is the proposed minor variance is minor in nature? Is the proposed variance desirable for the appropriate development of the land, building, or structure? Is the proposed variance keeping the general intent of the purpose of the zoning bylaw? And is the proposed variance keeping with the general intent of the purpose of the official plan? Staff also reviewed the regional official plan, the township official plan. So both policy basically support the proposed development. The property is located within a built-up area in the community of Air. When we see the policy 2D3A of the regional official plan that state the urban growth center designation identify the region primary business, civic, commercial, and cultural center that will be planned and developed to accommodate significant share of region future population and employment. And when we see the key policy of the township official plan 2.4.5 that state the township will encourage the provincial provision of new dwelling units in built-up area and the air urban area through infill conversion, intensification, or redevelopment compatible with the surrounding uses, except where infrastructure is inadequate or there's significant physical constraint. So this property is located within the built-up area. The infrastructure is already available there. As I mentioned, the property is serviced by municipal water and sewer. Currently, the property is zoned as Zone 6 urban commercial. The general intent of the Zone 6 allow mixed commercial and residential land use activities. As you can see the map, is zoned as Zone 6. And when we see the key applicable policy, for example, section 12.2.8 of the zoning bylaw that permit dwelling unit to the rear portion of the property zoning bylaw permit the dwelling unit to the rear of the permitted commercial uses. And when we see the section 6.10.3 In zone 6, the building line shall be the front line. I will explain the next slide. So as I mentioned, the minor variance is proposed, the construction of the proposed stacked townhouse condominium. As you can see in the map, there's an existing mixed land use building, the northeast corner of the property. The applicant is also proposing like a 50 parking spaces with 9 tandem parking. The applicant is proposing the new townhouse building, the southern portion of the property. And the new townhouse consisting of 24 units. So the applicant submitted the minor variance application with the multiple minor variances. For example, like when we see the definition 2.160 of the zoning bylaw, which state about the off-street parking spaces, which says that the minimum parking dimension is required 3 meter by 6 meter. However, the applicant proposes a parking spaces dimension of 2.7 meter by 5.5 meter. The second minor variance is according to section 613(3) of the zoning bylaw, requires street parking spaces to be located minimum of 1.5 meter from a lot line. However, the applicant proposes off-street parking spaces to be located 0.0 meter from the lot line along the Swan Street. As I mentioned, the subject property currently zoned as zone 6, and when we see the existing development, there's a 9 existing small studio 1-bedroom apartment, and the zoning bylaw required 1.5 parking space per unit. Based on this number, the 14 parking spaces will be required. However, the applicant proposing 9 parking spaces for the existing apartment building. And when we see the existing offices, so according to zoning bylaw, 1 space for each 30 meter of the floor area is required. So based on this number, there's a 10 spaces required. However, the applicant is proposing 9 standard parking spaces with 9 tandem parking spaces and including 2 barrier-free parking. So altogether it'll be like a 18. So technically it's more than what the zoning bylaw required. And I will explain, in the next slide, how this support by the parking study conducted by the applicant. And as I mentioned, the applicant proposing 24 stacked townhouses, which will be rental condominium. So according to the zoning bylaw, section 613(5), zoning bylaw required townhouses or stacked townhouses 2 spaces per dwelling unit. The applicant is proposing 24 stacked townhouse. So based on that number, there'll be 48 spaces required. The applicant is proposing 30 parking spaces with a rate of 1.25 unit per unit. And additionally, the applicant is proposing 80 spaces dedicated outside of the business hour. As I mentioned, there's a office building. So after office hour, the resident can use that 18 parking spaces. So with regarding height, section 6.3a of the zoning bylaw established building height to be to a maximum 3 stories, but the applicant proposes a 4 stories. And it is proposed that the maximum height threshold of structure will be established approximately 11.80 meters. And as you can see on the sketch, the definition 2.211 defined the first story, the story with its floor closest to grade and having its ceiling more than 1.8 meter, which is 6 feet. The first story of the proposed development exceed 1 point above average grade. So when you see this elevation, so it seems like there's a 3.5 story. So the zoning bylaw required if it's more than 1.8 meter above grade level, then it will be considered first floor or 1 story. So that's why this, considering the applicant require requesting the minor variance for the fourth floor. Otherwise, it will look like a 3.5 story. The other minor variance requested by the applicant, as you can see on the sketch, that the section 12.3.2 of the zoning bylaw established no exterior stairways, where the applicant proposing dwelling units have an exterior stairways, which will be accessed from the parking. Section 12.3.2C of the zoning bylaw required that each dwelling unit shall have direct access to a public street by means of hall or stairs. However, the proposed dwelling units propose no direct access to the public street by means of hall as stairs. So the access to the proposed dwelling unit will be from the parking, which will be quite accessible and functionally, I think, will be better. So the staff also received two correspondence from the member of public. Mainly they're concerned about the height and the reduced number of parking. And basically they mentioned that 28 parking space or 30 parking space is not adequate for the proposed 24 dwelling unit. And it will create the traffic congestion, and it will be out of the character of the existing downtown area, because the applicant proposing 4 stories. And they mentioned that the number of stack should be reduced to allow for more parking, as leasing and or selling these with one assigned spot could also pose a challenge. So basically they're concerned about the height, number of parking spaces, and the character of the proposed development. So staff also circulated submission package to agencies. Basically, we didn't receive any concern from the agencies, as the regional municipality expressed no concern. They mentioned that the regional development charges would be required prior to issuance of building permit. Grand River Conservation Authority expressed no concern. Enbridge CAS expressed no concern, and Energy Plus they provided the standard comments that the owner will be responsible for all costs associated with the relocation upgrade of the existing electrical plants. If required as a result of this proposal, the owner applicant will be required to grant easement to the satisfaction of the Energy Plus if required as a result of this proposal. So the Public Works Department expressed some comments concern, and they mentioned that there's no public transit service available in the area. The development referenced as a justification are not an equivalent, given the size of the unit and that the stalls will have painted assigned numbering. The Public Works Department does not have any objection, but will require the parking study to be updated to include the information provided the applicant agent. And the 1.5 meter parking setback is acceptable at stainless steel. As I mentioned before, the applicant, basically there's the proposed, the property is located at the intersection of the Stanley and Swan Street. So at the Stanley Street side, the applicant proposing 0.7 meter setback for the parking. However, the applicant revised, and they're proposing 1.5 meter parking setback from the Stanley Street, so which is acceptable to the Public Works Department. The Public Works Department also mentioned that the reduction in the parking spot side 2.75 meter by 5.5 meter will cause some vehicle to overhang the end of the parking spot. The Public Works Department would recommend moving the curb on the eastern side to provide an additional 0.25 meter, 0.30 meter of spaces in the center lane. So staff will consider some matter or yeah. So staff recommending that all comments and correspondence received during the consultation process, staff will consider when the recommendation report will be prepared, the following matters. All comments and correspondence received during consultation process, the effect of the proposed development on matter of provincial interest, such as promoting efficient development and land use pattern, safe and healthy communities, and the conversion of feature of significant architectural, cultural, historical, and scientific interest, and whether the development conform to the official plan intent and the zoning bylaw is maintained, whether the proposed development is compatible with the surrounding property, and to follow the sound prior planning practice, there is an appropriate mechanism to ensure whether there's appropriate mechanism to ensure responsive site development such as architectural control, tree preservation, grading, drainage, visual impact, building material, and architectural character of the surrounding building and proposed development. How the proposed development will impact the traffic in the surrounding area. And the staff will also consider the heritage advisory recommendation on the chair report and associated peer review completed by the township heritage consultant. Staff will also consider the 4 test, as I mentioned before, that whether the proposed development minor in nature, it maintains the intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw, and whether the proposed development is appropriate and desirable for the use of land and the building structure as well. And staff will also consider the adequacy of parking study and its recommendation conclusion. We will evaluate how does this affect the overall arrangement of uses on the property and where there'll be potential offsite impact. Staff will also consider is a subject proposed in the opinion of the staff is desirable of the property and compatible with the adjacent user and property as well. We will also consider the density, scale, massing, visual impact, and does the proposed variance affect the adjacent property and building as well. As I mentioned that the applicant also submitted the site plan application concurrently with this minor variance application. Those staff will, the few matters regarding setbacks, stormwater management, parking, that will be considered through site plan application. Staff will also consider, as I mentioned, the density, scale, height, massing, visual impact as well. So staff recommending that all comments and correspondence received from the member of public and government agencies through the consultation process be returned to staff for a future report to council on the disposition of this matter. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Shaheen. I see that there's no members of the public that have any questions. We have Matthew Robson, Craig Robson, William Thompson, registered here to answer any questions if council has any. Councils, any questions or comments? Seeing none, since it is a bit of a lengthy motion, Ms. Sage, you do not have to read it in its entirety. Well, actually, it's not that bad. Wait a minute, got this right one? Yes, so you can read the motion, Ms. Sage, please. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor McCreary.
I have a question about the parking issue. Right now, I guess the number of parking spots that are required by the zoning bylaw is 80, but you're actually only going to be able to offer 54. And I'm wondering if there would be a way to alleviate some of this parking pressure if we were to take some of the spaces that are allocated to the office building and have the employees actually park off-site. Maybe the employees they park in Gibson Street parking lot, or perhaps park at the ACC, the arena parking lot. So maybe the office spaces could be on a first come, first served basis. And then when they're full, the employees could park off site. I'm wondering if you considered that.
Matthew, do you want to take that?
Sure, I can speak further to the parking too, just overall. I had a presentation prepared as well, which I can go through quickly, just and speaking to those points of height and parking.
Sure.
That would be considered. It's an option. The shared parking arrangement really is the bread and butter here. Peak parking demand falls after business hours. So there'd be 1.25 spaces provided for the units at all times. And then after hours, there'd then be 18 spaces available, plus the additional 2 accessible spaces. which brings the total to 50 spaces for the stacked townhouse use. So that's the, sorry, Shahid has his
Go
hand up.
ahead, I'll take care of that, Matthew. So go ahead, Shahid.
Yeah, so through Madam Mayor, Councilor Merkley, so just wanted to clarify that according to zoning bylaw, 72 parking spaces required, not 80.
Oh, I thought I saw 80 in a report. Got it on my screen here. It's page 14 of the planning justification report. It says there are a total of 80 spaces required, whereas the site plan contemplates a total of 54 parking spaces. So we're short 34 spaces.
Shahid,
No,
go ahead.
26. Yeah, for sure. So that's where I got the 80 of the planning justification report.
No, sorry for that, but according to zoning bylaw, 72 parking spaces would be required.
Okay, it's actually 72. Another question, if I may,
Yes.
regarding the height. I was just wondering, how high will the apartment building be in relation to the current building, to the office structure? Will it be above, below, same height?
Matthew, do you want to take that?
Absolutely. It'll be a very similar height to the existing Queen's building at the front.
It's because of the grading that makes it deception, because it does say 4 stories, but if you look at the picture and if you look at the building, they do look like they're going to be about the same height because of the grading, the way the lot is as well.
Correct. Yeah. So half the story is buried, essentially. As well, it's a flat roof and there's no commercial ground floor either, which has a higher ceiling height. So it'll be a very similar height to the existing Queen's building.
CEO McNeely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to complement what Matthew just raised, by definition, we require the minor variance because it's more than 3 stories. What is really important is the overall measured height of the building, regardless of the number of stories. And in the notice, as well as in the report, we identified from average finished grade, a height of 11.8 meters for the 3.5 story structure. And we have residential zones throughout urban air that allow, as of right, 12 meters in height. So this building is actually slightly lower in height than some established zone classifications in our single detached neighborhoods found in various parts of urban air.
Thank you, CEO McNeely. Any other question? Councilor Rollerman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering, in the presentation, it was mentioned that these would be condominium rentals. Perhaps Matthew could explain what that means. I know last night we had a discussion about condominiums versus rentals, so maybe we put the 2 words together. So I'm just wondering if you can give us an explanation of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rollerman. So these will be rentals. That's the plan long term. There's no intention to actually sell the units. However, for estate planning purposes, long-term planning, they need to be condominiums at this point for a couple of reasons. We can let the condo lawyers speak to this too, who are on this Zoom call as well. But
William Thompson?
And Craig Robson, yes.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, so, but essentially, as you probably saw last night, the issue with the conversion of an existing rental building to condominium is quite frowned upon. So this allows long-term flexibility when the partners need to potentially divide up the assets to do so. If it's just one standalone building, you wouldn't be able to do that if it's not a condo. So fully intend to be rental units long term. So I think it's important to provide that type of housing for the Village of Ayr. So we're looking forward to it.
So these are not condos that you're going to be selling to the public. They're going to be maintained by, if I may, the family. The family want to run these as rental units and keep them within the family as a legacy type thing, if I understand that correctly. So this is a legacy building.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it's 2 families, obviously Robson and then my family, and the idea is that we would have these for a long term. It is, like Matthew just said, entirely about long-term planning at some point down the road. You can't you never know what's going to happen 20, 25 years in the future. And unfortunately, neither Craig nor I are getting younger. So at some point, we are going to be dealing with family members with it. And the condo structure allows the most flexibility for having it conveyed to the family members to hold in the future, but they are not intended to be sale units at all.
So this is basically estate planning.
Yeah, there's no way to split a building up otherwise, really, when it's in an apartment building, if it's not in a condo structure.
Okay. Are there any other questions, councillors? Ms. Sage, can I have the resolution, please?
Moved by Councillor Oster and seconded by Councillor Rollman that PD report number 55-2021 be received, and that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration in a future report to the committee on the disposition of this matter. Councillor Rollman,
In favor?
Councillor Oster,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cynthia, if you can, are the people for 7.3 here yet?
Yes, they arrived. All busy.
Okay.
I'll be moving people in and out.
Thank you.
Okay, we should be ready now.
Thank you very much. So 7.3 is report number PD 54-2021, a minor variance application for 250 Northumberland Street. Notice has been given to those who requested it. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended and/or have registered with the Clerk's Division to attend the meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. I'd now like to introduce Shahid, the Township Planner, who will be presenting on this application. Shahid, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So the next report before committee is minor variance application 0A08/20 for the property located at 250 Northumberland Street. The application submitted by Rima Habash and Hajjaj Freddy. So the purpose of this report is to introduce the minor variance application and to advance a recommendation for committee consideration on the merit of the proposal. Just to give you some background, that on May 26th, the Committee of Adjustment granted provisional consent approval. Basically, the lot was deficient in size and the lot frontage and the setback requirement. So the minor variance application was the key condition of the provisional consent approval. So the purpose of this application is to satisfy the provisional consent approval granted by Committee of Adjustment at May 26th meeting. Just to give you some background on the property location, the property is located at 250 Northumberland Street, which is located at the west side of Northumberland Street and north of the Nith River, as you can see the map. The property approximately 1,867 square meter in size, with a corresponding lot frontage of 34.8 meter along Northumberland Street, with a lot depth of 53.8 meter. Currently, there's an existing dwelling, existing single-tier dwelling located on is on the property. The balance of the property is landscaped and grassed. The property is serviced by municipal water and sanitary sewer, and the property accessed from the Northumberland Street. Staff also reviewed the provincial policy document and regional and township official plan documents as well. All document the proposed minor variance and the consent application approved by committee in the past that align with these documents: the provincial policy document, regional official plan document, and township official plan as well. The property is currently zoned as Zone 4A, and the Zone 4A classification permit a residential building, which may include secondary dwelling and accessory uses in conformity with the additional provision of zoning bylaw as well. So to satisfy the provision consent approval, the applicant submitted this minor variance application. So as you can see, the current zoning bylaw Zone 4A required 800 square meter, the total minimum lot area. However, the applicant proposes 712 square meter for the proposed sewer lot. The minimum lot frontage required 18 meter. The proposed sewer lot is proposing 14.66 meter. And the minimum side yard requirement is 2.4 meter for more than 1 story. So the proposed existing dwelling unit is 1.5 meter. So the retained lot required, the minor variance for as the 2.4 meter required, the applicant is proposing 1.9 meter south lot line. The application has been mailed out to the notice of public meeting has been mailed out to the adjacent property owner. The property notice sign board has been installed on the property. So we receive one correspondence, and also we receive one call from the interested member of the public. The key concern was that the proposed consent do not confirm the minimum lot area size, and this is an undersized lot confirmed to the nature of the streetscape and community. The sewer lot configuration is contrary to any other along Northumberland Street. Basically, in the past, the committee also approved one property for the severance, and that's adjacent to this 250 street. So at that time, there was a condition that the existing structure, which is straddled to the property line, to need to be removed. So and the member of the public also mentioned that this will be set up a precedent, continuing to increase the density traffic access directly in the Northumberland Street. So staff staff is in the opinion the provisional consent approval was granted on May 26th, and there was a timeline to appeal the consent application, which was on June 21st. So that deadline passed. The minor variance application is by design to implement the matter to earlier consent application. As I mentioned, the committee adjustment approved on May 26th. That was approved. The notice of decision was issued. The timeline for the appeal has lapsed. And each application, basically, they evaluated by committee of staff based on their own merits. It's not like a standard principle that one condition can be applied to other like a application. So each application is evaluated based on its own merits. And staff is of the opinion that the future submission are made on the properties in proximity to the subject land will be judged on their own merits, as I mentioned before. And the staff understand that the proposed consent represent an acceptable form of development, and condition to the provision approval to the consent application are appropriate to support the development of the property. So staff also circulated the submission package to agencies. We didn't receive any comments, concern from any agency or department. For example, Public Works Department expressed no objection. GRC expressed no concern. Energy Plus, they provide the standard comments and they expressed no objection. And the region, they mentioned the region will require the development charges prior to issuance of the building permit. So to evaluate the application, staff reviewed the 4 tests of the minor variance as required by the Planning Act. When we see is the proposed minor variance minus nature, staff understand that requested variance is proposed to recognize the reduced lot size from 1800 to 712 meter and lot width 18 meter to 14.66 meter for the sewer lot, and the side yard from 2.4 meter to 1.9 meter for the southerly property line is minor in nature. As the current zoning bylaw allow single-detached dwellings, so the proposed development is also desirable for the property, and it won't create any negative impact in the area. Staff, as I mentioned, the property is currently zoned as Zone 4A, so it's also maintained the intent and the purpose of the zoning bylaw. The property is located in the built-up area of the area, so it's also in the built-up area. The region and township encourage intensification, so that the proposed variance is also, or the consent application which approved by committee is also aligned with the general intent and the purpose of the official plan. So staff recommend that the adjacent property owner concern are addressed, and that's not relevant to the minor variance application now. No comments concern received from the external agencies and internal department. The Committee of Adjustment granted a provisional consent approval at May 26 meeting. The proposed variance implement the earlier decision on this consent application. The requested variance satisfy the provisional consent approval. The condition with respect to the architectural design as part of the provisional consent approval is intended to ensure the design of the several lot is complementary to residential property within the vicinity of the subject property. So when the consent application approved, there was a condition the applicant has to enter in the development agreement with the township. So through that development agreement, that architectural design or stormwater or drainage, that will be addressed through that the development agreement. And the last one is the proposed development will ensure the building line align with the neighboring property, which is, I think, the neighboring property is a 12 meter. So that will align with the neighboring property as well. So based on the recommendation I mentioned, that staff is recommending to the Committee of Adjustment that the decision on the minor variance application be approved. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Shahid. Alfred Habash and Betty Hajai are here registered today. They will answer any questions should we have any. There is no public questions. Councilors, Councilor Osner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This question, I guess, is for either Shahid or Andrew. The property that was recently passed for a building permit on the same side of the street, but closer to the downtown. I'm sorry, I can't remember the address, but it's very close. What was the lot width of the approved new lot? Do we have that?
Through Madam Mayor, Councilor Osner, I can't remember the exact lot frontage, but it was a bit less than this property line, the lot frontage which approved by committee for this 250 Northumberland Street. It's exactly the same or less than that.
Okay, so it was smaller in size than this lot? Okay.
Yes.
Councilor Rollerman.
Madam Mayor, with regards to Councilor Oster's question, I looked these up before the meeting tonight. The number he's talking about is 244 Northumberland Street, and that lot was 13.4 in width. And similarly, at the Gore, lot 1, lot 2, lot 3, and lot 4, which all open onto Northumberland Street, lot 1 was 4.9, but lot 2, lot 3, and 4 were all 12 meters in width. So just as a point of reference, that's the sizes of the recently severed lots in that neighborhood.
Thank you, Councilor Rollerman. Anyone else have any comments or questions? I just have one, Shahid.
Yeah.
What is considered not minor?
What considered not minor? So
because to me, we just keep getting smaller and smaller. And I have to tell you what, years, and I'm going way back, years ago,
So,
I wanted to buy a lot and it was 54 feet frontage. And that at that time it was not allowed because it was not wide enough. Maybe CEO McNeely wants to step in here. Go ahead, CEO McNeely. You saved Shahid.
Madam Mayor, the issue of what is minor in the context of a variance has been the subject of numerous debates over the years, historically in front of the Ontario Municipal Board and later by LPAP. there is no mathematical equation or formula. Each application is assessed on its own merits. I have appeared as a professional witness before the historic Ontario Municipal Board, where we sought a variance that was less than 1 foot from the standard. Okay. And we were successful in that case, arguing that it wasn't minor in nature because of the adjacent activity and the shadow effect it would have had on the adjacent property. So
It wasn't minor?
no, we argued that it wasn't minor because of the negative impact on the adjacent property and the enjoyment of their outdoor amenity space. So each proposal is assessed on its own merits because each property and the setting in which it resides is unique. No two properties can be the same. And so that's why there is no mathematical formula, benchmark. Each application, you look at the context of the proposed development in the setting in which it resides.
Thank you, CEO McNally, and thank you, Shahid. No, I see no further questions. Ms. Sage, can I have the motion, please?
So moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Rowland that PD report number 54-2021 be received, and that minor variance application A-08-21, being a request to seek relief from general zoning bylaw 689-83 to allow a minimum lot area of 712.4 square meters for the severed lot, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a minimum lot area of 800 square meters, a minimum lot width of 14.66 meters for the severed lot, whereas section 8.3.2 requires a minimum lot width of 18 meters and minimum side yard of 1.9 meters for the southerly property line of the retained lot, whereas section 8.3.3 requires a minimum side yard of 2.4 meters be approved. Councillor Rowland?
Yes.
Councillor Rossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. Okay, and now we have a motion to adjourn the Committee of Adjustment and go into council meeting.
So moved by Councillor Rowland and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that pursuant to the Planning Act, the public meeting of Committee of Adjustment be adjourned at 8:01 p.m. and the council meeting be called back to order. Councillor Rowland?
Yes.
Councillor Rossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. Are we good to go, Cynthia?
Yes.
Thank you. So this is the public meeting, 8.1, report number PD-52-2021, proposed zoning bylaw amendment, ZC-07/20, and proposed draft plan subdivision for 2224 Cedar Creek Road. I'd like to state that notice has been given to those who requested it. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended and/or have registered with the Clerk's Division to attend the meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. Shahid, would you please do the presentation?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So I will be presenting I will be presenting the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application, which is ZC-07/21, and the proposed draft plan of subdivision file number 30T20303 for the property located at 224 Cedar Creek Road. So the purpose of this meeting is to provide an overview of the proposed development proposal and solicit comment from the interested member of public, government agencies, and stakeholder, and identify the issues or matter to be assessed by staff as part of the consideration of the subject proposal. So the purpose of this two planning applications, zoning bylaw amendment and subdivision, is to rezone the property from zone 14 to zone 11 to facilitate the industrial subdivision and Zone 12 environmental protection to protect and preserve the natural environment along the west property line. So the subject property is located within a Highway 4197 employment area, which is municipally addressed as 224 Cedar Creek Road. The total property, as you can see the map, the total property is approximately 60.49 hectare, which is 149 acres in size. The subject property is currently licensed by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry as gravel pit operation. As you can see in the map, at the approximate center of the property, there is a storage shed and outdoor storage. Adjacent to the west property limit are also natural environmental features that exist. And there are two lot frontage of the property. One is from the Dumfries Road. The second one is from the Cedar Creek Road. The proposed development align with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. As we reviewed the provincial policy statement, the growth plan for Greater Golden Horseshoe. The section 1.3 of the provincial policy statement that says that support economic development within employment area, plan for industrial or manufacturing uses, providing opportunities for diversified economy base, and maintaining a range and choice of suitable site for employment uses. When we see the growth plan, it states that the support is follow the same policy and says the support economic development by making more efficient use of existing employment areas and vacant and underutilized employment land, and increasing the employment densities, and accommodate forecasted employment growth to horizon of the growth plan, aligning with the economic development goals and strategy to retain and attract investment and employment. The proposed development also align with the regional official plan and township official plan, as is located within a Highway 4197 employment area. As we can see, the policy 2.f states that the land within this designation are intended to provide additional opportunities for employment growth and business development within the township of North Dumfries. The policy 2.6.72 of the township official plan that say the land designation in the designation will be developed as parcel greater than 8 hectare in size. So the applicant is proposing the parcel size approximately 8 hectare to align with the official plan policies. And as you can see in the map, this is the property which is located with the Highway 4197 employment area. Currently, the property is zoned as Zone 14, a mineral aggregate, and the western portion of the property is zoned as Zone 1 agriculture. The applicant is proposing from Zone 14 to Zone 11 for industrial development, and the property which is like a Zone 1 agriculture, that area will be that portion will be proposed Zone 12A to protect and preserve the natural environment. As I mentioned previously, there's an environmental feature located on along the western property line. Let me share the proposed application for zoning. When you see the subdivision map, draft plan of subdivision map, the applicant proposed rezone the property, as I mentioned, Zone 14 to Zone 11, and the minimum lot area for the industrial lot will be 8 hectare. As you can see in the map, there'll be 6 lots. The portion along the property line where environmental sensitive features are present are proposed to be rezoned from Zone 1 agriculture to Zone 12 environmental protection EP1. When we see the proposed draft plan of subdivision, as you can see, the applicant proposing 6 lots. Each lot will be approximately 8 hectare in size. The proposed industrial will be accessed through the access road connecting linking Dumfries Road to Cedar Creek Road. As I mentioned, there's a 2 lot frontage. So there'll be a curve shaped road which will be connecting from Cedar Creek Road to Dumfries Road. And the future development of the subject property will be primarily serviced by individual well and septic system to accommodate the new industrial uses. Staff submitted the submission package to the agencies and department, and also circulated the notice of public meeting to adjacent property owner. So we received one correspondence from the member of public. The key concern was regarding rehabilitation requirement, and they also received another email that they was concerned about the industrial development on the subject property, and basically they were suggesting, I mean, this shouldn't be approved because it's a zone 14 and it should be rehabilitated back to the agriculture. But as the property is located with the Highway 4197 employment area, so so the staff also, as I mentioned, the staff also circulated the submission package to agencies. The region's staff expressed no concern to the zoning bylaw amendment application, and they expressed some condition that the inclusion of the holding provision, the site-specific zoning bylaw, requiring the removal of the aggregate license for the subject land. The holding provision shall not be released until the region of Waterloo is in receipt of documentations that the license has been removed as acknowledged by Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. And the regional staff required the owner applicant to submit the stage 3 and 4 of archaeological assessment and the ministry acknowledgement letter prior to final approval of the zoning bylaw application for the subject lands. As I mentioned, the staff circulated the submission package. So we received some comments from the agencies. Energy Plus expressed no objection, and they provide the standard comments. The Grand Conservation Authority provided some comments that mainly focusing on resources issues, water resources, engineering, and natural heritage. So the draft plan is still under review by agencies, and future comments and assessment will be included in the next report to council. Waterloo Catholic District School Board expressed that the education development charges shall be collected prior to issuance of the building permit. Canadian Pacific Railway, because the north portion of the property is along the CP Railway, and the CP Railway expressed that it does not oppose to commercial type of development adjacent to their right of way, and the commercial development should still meet the certain recommendations. So they provided some recommendation which will need to be followed by the applicant. The staff also circulated the submission package, as I mentioned. So the case mod expressed that there's a general no objection to the requested zoning change. The draft plan of subdivision also under review by Public Work Department of the Township of North Dumfries. So the future comments and assessment regarding engineering matters will be included in the next report to council. For example, stormwater management, grading, drainage. So there'll be the submission package is still under review, and that'll be included in the next feature report to the council. So in consideration of feature report on the merits of this application, the staff will be consider the matter, including the comments and correspondence received during consultation process, the effect of the proposed development matter of provincial interest, such as promoting opportunity for economic development, diversification of the economy based on employment opportunity through goods and services, efficient development of land users patrons, the production and preserve the natural environment as well. As I mentioned, the western portion of the property consists of a natural environmental feature. So if the subject proposal, in the opinion of staff, is desirable of the property, compatible with the adjacent uses and property, so staff will consider these points as well when we will present the recommendation report to council. Staff will also consider are the proposed classifications suitable for the subject land? What are the site specific provision are required to address the future intended use of the subject land. Staff will also consider the traffic circulation points of ingress and egress to the development. What are the impact of the proposed development to the Cedar Creek Road and Dumfries Road as well? Staff will consider the site servicing and proposed intensity of the development as proposed. We will also consider the appropriate mechanism to address site requirements such as drainage, grading, site servicing, stormwater management, protection of natural environment, tree preservation, and urban design and compatibility as well. Staff will consider the utilization of the holding symbol on the proposed zone classification, including as an example, the inclusion of release of the aggregate operating license by a ministry as a condition. And we will consider the long-term protection and ideally the enhancement of the environmental features along the west property line. Is there any opportunity to incorporate these land either into public ownership or alternatively non-government ownership? So the staff recommending to council that all comments and correspondence received from the member of public and government agencies through the consultation process be returned to staff for the future report to council on the disposition of this matter. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Shahid. There is Tamara Brown and Janice Brown wishing to speak on this item. Tamara and Janice, you're up.
Okay, hold on. Go for it. There's my mom, Jan.
Yes, good evening. Janice Brown, taxpayer for over 30 years to North Dumfries. I try to live here, but tonight, after I work a hard day in COVID, I am stressed physically because of the township supporting yet another loss of value to our property, impacting my health, and who gives a damn? And yet I go to work each day and a good portion of my paycheck is going to taxes. And I live in an environment that is being ripped away further from any enjoyment. And I have no say. And I know where the township is destroying it. When I drive by a dump of over on Rose, I have to think, what has happened to these people? I know I have no recourse where the region does not even recognize our property as being here. And this has been said more than once, but yet they collect property taxes. So why the township and the region do not recognize our 2 acres of property here, I don't know. But once again, it's in all this paperwork here, it's being demonstrated that we're not existing here, which I guess we're not because we're not really allowed to enjoy. I'm not a good speaker, but I totally, I just lost her words. Tamara, you're better to speak than I.
Oh, I'm gonna get mad though.
Yeah, well, don't.
And I know not some of you know the history that we've had dealing with these sort of issues, especially around aggregate. How, especially involving the township.
Tamara,
So I think
Tamara, if you shut your camera off, your voice may not break up. So try shutting your camera off and then we'll maybe hear you better. There we go. Try that.
our dog is also very angry.
Well, he knows we're bothered.
He's bothered.
See?
So he's putting in his words, so you can add him to the list of public participants. Is it still going?
Yeah, we're listening. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. I don't know if you want to respond to.
Tamara?
They don't care, dear.
No, we can't.
Oh,
We lost you, Tamara.
I said I didn't know if you wanted to respond to Janice or.
Well, we can't do anything about the region recognizing your property. I'm sure they do recognize your property. You haven't addressed any real specific concerns in regards to this application that we could respond to.
Her concern is that anytime you look on any of these documents, it just anything that's east of Dumfries Road is just said it's portrayed as small agricultural or small farming operation, doesn't recognize any of the houses. That's what she is referring to by it saying, oh my goodness, by it saying there is like not and this happened to us previously where they pretend represent.
Well, you're right. Your house is
Like,
in what's classified as the
but when you're looking
countryside.
at certain impacts, it should be considered too. But I can go to I have many questions, and I've spent this. So first of all, we have an issues with notice because it's going back. I was on that gravel committee. When was that? 2016 or so, at least. And apparently this has been all being discussed in 2014. Why was there no mention of this? Because you sure know that this pit came up a lot as the example of a gravel pit's dereliction of duty with respect to rehabilitation. It sat there for 30 some years, so-called dormant, which is another thing, because if you look through all these reports, this pit, which has an active license, that's not the representation, still should have requirements for rehabilitation. So one thing I've been trying to track down all day and haven't been able to get anybody on seminar. I've just spent from 10 o'clock till 5 o'clock following voicemails day after, they would say, call this one if it's an emergency. You call them and it's another voicemail. So nobody was there to respond to give me a simple copy of the site plan or the rehabilitation plan or the license or anything like that. I do have all of the documents that were online except for the traffic study. That was like a corrupted file or something. It wasn't going to download either on my phone or on the computer. So I can't really see any of the things that they're saying about that. But what we do know is the traffic, at least right now,
traffic is noise, it's astronomical.
It's gotten way worse, even in the past few years. This point now, it's it takes us ages just to turn out of our driveway, and now the traffic is going to get worse. That's insane. It said on the presentation that the only concern that was brought up was rehabilitation, but I thought in the correspondence I had so far that wasn't representative of my formal list of complaints. I just haven't had time. Noticed something was barely visible from the road, and it took us till a few days ago to actually see, oh, there's something happening there. So I had just today to look at all of this, and there is about reading the paper here, printed double-sided with information of what I'm going through, and I'm still plucking out lots of questions. Charlie Dog.
Okay, I have a few people that wish to speak. Councillor Ossner first, and then CEO McNeely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Quiet, at least.
I was just going to say that the motion reads that we're going to receive all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process, correct?
Correct. We are not voting on this tonight.
This internet connection is not doing Tamara or Janice any justice for what they're trying to say, because they're cutting in and out. I can't hear them, so they're not being heard properly, which is not fair to them. So would it be fair to say that if Tamara and Janice could email all their concerns and everything so that all the council can get it, so we can get it, it'll all form part of the same plan? Because this is honestly, it's not getting anywhere because we're not hearing half of what they're saying, and it's not fair to them for us not to be able to hear their concerns. And it's very frustrating because we're only getting every third word out of this deal. So is it fair to say, if they could email you all the concerns and everything, and if council can get that, that would be great.
And that's what I told them today when I talked to them on the phone, that providing the email would be essential. We would have it to read and go through the concern. CEO McNeely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to build on what Councillor Oster has indicated, there is no decision being made on the merits of the application tonight. The review of the various technical reports, like the noise study, the traffic study, and similar technical work, continues by both the township as well as external government agencies. Obviously, any summary coming out of those reports would be reflected in a future study. If there are gaps in those existing technical studies. They will be identified back to the proponent to address before a future report is returned back to council. As Councillor Oster and Madam Mayor have indicated, because there's no decisions being made tonight, Township will receive comments up until the time a future decision is made on this application. So if comments come in the next few weeks, that would be ideal, but there's nothing to stop them occurring at later dates up to the time when council actually is in a position to make a decision, which is several months removed from where we are today. Finally, Tamara and Mrs. Brown were broken up at this point, but I think one of the questions they were asking about was access to the historic ministry license and what the terms were on that license related to rehabilitation. We do have a copy of that information in the office, so you don't need to go to the Guelph District Office of the ministry. Shahid tomorrow will make arrangements for those aspects of the license, including the drawings, to be sent through to your email account. And Tamara, if it's okay, we'll use your email account that we have on record.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. My one question for tonight, though, is why the township seems to be, at least staff are so in favor of having this pit that has historically relinquished all responsibility for rehabilitation suddenly be getting off the hook and in fact making money, and what it thinks about the message it is sending, because
Okay,
we are
Mayor,
surrounded. So
if I may, we are a government body in Canada. Anybody can request anything. Does not mean it's going to happen. It has to go through a process, but we can't prevent people from asking.
Staff said it's a recommendation in favor. That's why I'm bringing this up.
It's not in favor. They're asking that it be, that we're not dealing with it tonight until there's further information. When it's not in favor. We're not
what I
supporting it.
understood. They're
Pardon
still
me?
recommending the consideration of if you look back in his plan and it said like staff support this.
If you read the motion, it says that all comments and correspondence be received in the consultation process and be returned to staff for further consideration and a future report to council on the disposition of this matter. There's no commitment tonight.
No, I'm referring to Shahid's presentation.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. His presentation, if you've read it a certain way, this is what the resolution says. That we are not making a decision tonight. Further work needs to be done on this. That's what it's saying.
It shouldn't even be this far.
It's Canada. You're allowed to request what you want. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It may or it may not. It has to be justified. Councillors, do you have any other questions? Councillor Gillespie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just wondering how far the 40197 employment area goes. Is there, and when did this happen? Like, is there a certain area that envelops?
CEO McNeely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to Councillor Gillespie. Generally speaking, it goes as far east as the Dumfries Road. So the property that is before council tonight is framed by Dumfries Road. It extends then northerly, and there is a consent applications just to the north of this property for 3 or 4 employment lots. Then we have the CP rail corridor, and then we have Rife Road, which runs parallel to the 401. And then across the road, there's a cluster of 2 or 3 industrial facilities that have been long-standing, Forterra being one of them. So generally speaking, that's the easterly edge of the 97 401 Business Park. And the western limit is, generally speaking, would be the Unilock facility.
So none of it falls under the countryside line. It's under the
So it's within a rural employment settlement area. that has been established for numerous years. And this property in particular was identified by the region in the 2011-2012 time period when they were creating the new regional official plan as a strategic employment land holding. And there were specific criteria placed upon it, one of which was the minimum lot size of 8 hectares or 20 acres.
Thank you, CEO McNally. But as I understand it, when listening to this, the aggregate license has not been released yet. Is that correct, Shahid?
That's correct, Madam Mayor. There's an active license. The ministry has not relinquished it. And until such time as the ministry relinquishes the license, then they're obligated to follow whatever the terms and conditions of the license are. The ministry is aware of the historic designation on the property being for employment as the end use of the property. And the ministry is aware that there is a plan of subdivision and a rezoning application. To date, the ministry has not provided any comments on the Planning Act applications that are being presented tonight. But ultimately, before the development, if it is approved in a future period, the ministry would actually have to relinquish the license. And that's why we put it as a condition of the rezoning application, if that was to be approved, because we want to make sure that the ministry is satisfied that everything that needed to be done under the historic aggregate license has been completed to their satisfaction, and then becomes a planning process after that, if the development is to proceed for employment purposes.
Why does it not get rehabilitated back to agriculture? Is it because of the 401 corridor that you discussed?
So I don't have in front of me the terms of the rehabilitation plan. I'm going to suggest that this predates 1995, and as such, the rehabilitation obligations were fairly nominal from that era. And because of the more recent employment designation as an end use, some of the rehabilitation would be in support of employment type uses if that were to be approved. In other words, it would go from an aggregate status to an industrial subdivision status.
So why is this different from the Panera one?
You're going to have to help me. Panera is
where they wanted to park the trucks.
Because that is in the rural countryside area.
Well, it's in the countryside
protected
line in this one.
countryside, and as such has never been set aside for employment purposes. And that is a huge distinguishing matter.
Okay.
The unfortunate thing about the Panera property is it's of a similar vintage and had limited rehabilitation requirements. And that property doesn't grow even good weeds.
That's right. Okay, any other questions, Council? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Ms. Sage?
So moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Rollman that PD report number 52-2021 be received, and that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration in a future report to Council on the disposition of this matter. Councillor Rollman?
Yes.
Councillor Rossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCurry?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. Next, we will have the confirmatory bylaw, please.
Moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Rollman that bylaw number 3279-21, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council on September 28th, 2021, be read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed, signed, and sealed by the Mayor and Clerk. Councillor Rollman?
Yes.
Councillor Rossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCurry?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes,
That carries.
and the adjournment, please.
So moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Ossner that whereas business before this public planning meeting has been completed at 8:33 p.m. and be it resolved that this meeting adjourns and meets again on October 12th at 6 p.m. for Committee of the Whole. Councillor Rollman?
Yes.
Councillor Ossner?
Yes.
Counselor McCreary,
Yes.
Counselor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes.